team Northampton on Saturday by picking up a point at Cheltenham. Neil Wainwright's header was cancelled out by Grant McCann's penalty. Matty Appleby and Michael Townsend both saw red for an off-the-ball incident, and Darlington could have nicked it in the end. Sub Simon Johnson almost embarrassing Shane Higgs in the town goal. Darlow are 9th, 2 points behind Lincoln with 3 games left. This one's going right to the wire.
And they'll be alongside local rivals Darlington, who finished 1 place outside the playoff places for the 2nd season running. Like their seaside rivals, Darlington needed to win and hope other results went their way. Like Poole, neither happened. Andy Cook's last-minute strike meant at least the season finished on a high. Plenty of work for David Hodson this summer.
Former Sunderland defender Darren Holloway joined Darlington's players in front of the cameras today, having signed a 1-year deal with the Quakers just in time for Saturday's big kick-off. The hope is that this season the club can follow Carlisle's example and climb out of League Two. Here's Ian Reeve.
Just sit up straight, chaps.
Darlington's manager David Hodgson knew just where he wanted everyone in this morning's team photo, and he's just as single-minded about the aim for the coming season.
Promotion, simple as that. I think it has to be done. It has to be done in my time now, that's for sure. We failed 2 years on the trot by a goal and a point, and this year we think we've got bodies in the club who will take us beyond that. I'm not one for having excuses as such, but last year we run with a budget which was always going to be difficult for us, very poor. This year the chairman's increased it immensely.
Which is just as well, because the side still needs a striker. The £250,000 bid for Michael Bridges having been turned down by Carlisle. Elsewhere, though, Darlington have added experience to their squad, with Barry Conlon returning for his 2nd stint with the club.
Last time he was here, we were going through a bit of, bad times. We were wrong end of the table and what have you. But as I say, like, come back now, it's a different atmosphere. A few new lads, a few old lads as well. But I think everyone's in the same boat now. We just want success and want to get promoted.
And that desire for promotion also tempted the former Sunderland player Martin Smith back to the North East and away from playing for promoted Northampton in Division 1.
It'd be no secret I was always looking to come and finish my career back in the North East, but I wanted to sort of come when I still felt I had something to offer. I just felt the time was right to come. I had a look around the stadium, met the manager, and as I said, he sort of sold us the club and made my decision very easy, really.
The players can start to justify the manager's faith on Saturday against Macclesfield. Their boss was the only manager in North East football to start and finish last season with his club. The roll call of the dismissed and departed was illustrious. Promotion will surely mean, though, that David Hodgson pulls off the same trick this season.
Conlon's first game back at Darlington couldn't have gone any better. The big Irishman's hat-trick helped the Quakers to a 4-0 win and put them top of League Two after the opening round of games. New Swiss striker Gaetano Gialanza got the ball rolling against Macclesfield on 12 minutes before Big Barry got in on the act. Conlon left Darlington in 2004 to move to Barnsley, but the popular striker looked like he'd never been away. 2 goals before half-time ended the game as a contest. The Irishman's third on 73 minutes made it a perfect day all round at the TFM Arena.
Darlington fared even better, taking the largely meaningless but still good for the spirits honour of heading the table this morning. Barry Conlon is the man to thank. 2 years after leaving the club for Barnsley, he came back with a bang, netting a hat-trick against hapless Macclesfield. None of the goals were especially outstanding, but up front is where David Hodgson's side struggled last season. So for the Darlington faithful, Conlon's return could be very good news indeed.
Action now and into League Two. Accrington Stanley are still without points on their return to league football. They lost 2-0 at home to Darlington. Darlington went ahead after 33 minutes. Sir Michael Cummins with the opening goal. Here's their second, scored by Martin Smith just before half-time. Horrible day for Accrington in the end. Andrew Proctor was sent off in the last minute. So they ended with 10 men and lost the game 2-0.
Life couldn't get any better for Darlington fans right now. The Quakers sit proudly at the top of League Two after beating Accrington's Stanley 2-0. David Hodgson's men were more than happy to act as party poopers to a Stanley side who were playing their first home match after a 44-year absence from the Football League. New signings Mickey Cummings and Martin Smith did the damage. Cummings' sublime volley was followed up by a typical poacher's goal from Smith.
3 other clubs were beaten as well, but Darlington have responded by signing Boston United striker Julian Joachim, who scored twice against them on Saturday. Within the last half hour, they announced they'd beaten off a late bid from Hartlepool to land Joachim for just over £100,000. We'll start the roundup, though, with Carlisle's long trip down to Somerset. Barry Conlon's made a bright start to his second spell at Darlington. This was his 3rd goal of the season already, and it levelled things up for the Quakers at Boston. But manager David Hodson also wanted Boston's Julian Joachim to be part of his strike force, and you can see why he's just signed him. The one-time Leicester and Villa favourite had the pace and the power to give the early League Two leaders the runaround, earning a penalty and scoring twice himself as Darlington slumped to a 4-1 defeat.
Wasn't all bad news though. Last night 2 of our lower league teams produced shock results. Hartlepool and Darlington both beat championship clubs. Darlington rested 5 players and were reduced to 10 men when Craig James was shown red just 12 minutes into their first round tie at Stoke, and yet came from behind to clinch a famous win in the Potteries. Vince Perricard had given the host the lead, but Carlos Logan equalised in first half injury time with a superb solo effort. That was good. But Julian Joachim, making his first start for the Quakers, hit an absolute beauty, worthy of winning any cup tie. And
Our 5 professional football clubs have changed their manager since the start of the year. Darlington's David Hodgson was the sole survivor, but his days looked numbered after a row with the chief executive. Well, apparently they've now kissed and made up.
In an incredible season last year, when first Graham Souness, quickly followed by Martin Scott and then Mick McCarthy all lost their jobs, and Steve McLaren swapped Teesside for Soho Square, David Hodgson was actually the only North East boss to hold on to his job. But just 6 games into the season, a miserable run of just 1 point from 4 games, the Quakers have dropped from table toppers to mid-table, and Hodgie's position appeared to be under threat. New chief executive John Sotnek, instrumental in the record signing of Julian Joachim from his previous club Boston, is believed to have joined in the chorus of boos which greeted the striker's substitution against Torquay. But this afternoon, Chairman George Horton issued a statement saying that after a meeting with both men, balance and harmony has been restored. For the record, Darlington did pick up a point to end a run of 3 straight defeats through Carlo Ungoma's volley. For now at least, Hodgson's position at the club appears to be secure. Danny.
Darlington chairman George Houghton has found it necessary to issue a statement saying Dave Hodgson will be staying on, despite suggestions that the manager and new chief executive John Stonnick had a strained relationship. No problem on the pitch, with Barry Conlon scoring from the penalty spot. Darlington are blessed with another striker in form in Julian Joachim. Goal number 5 this season, a brilliant solo effort, was followed 3 minutes later by goal number 6 following an exchange of passes with Gaetano Gielanza. Late in the second half, Gielanza was sent off when he clashed with Adam Newton. Newton escaped with a yellow card, but it all seemed rather unnecessary. Peterborough then able to reduce the deficit. Danny Crowe scoring, but they left it too late to contemplate a serious revival.
Chief executive was accused of booing the substitution of new striker Julian Joachim last week, but he's keen to show there's no bad blood between him and Quakers manager David Hodgson.
David and I have our own objectives, and that's for the common good of this football club. David on the field, me off the field. You know, you pay for what you get in today's world unless you're extremely lucky, and you know, if I can give David a bigger budget, then that gives him an opportunity of greater success.
Sotnik is here to make money for the club, money that can be spent on players. He claims almost all of the club record fee spent on former Aston Villa striker Julian Joachim has been returned to the club in the form of sponsorship deals. He was denied twice by a resolute Bury defence. It was the eagle eye of Premiership referee Phil Dowd that provided the breakthrough for the Quakers. He spotted a handball by David Challoner. Barry Conlon was more than happy to accept the gift as he took his tally for the season to 6.
Bristol Rovers have been struggling for goals this season, but it seems as though their 6 in 9 games, scored by Lewis Haldane after 55 minutes, would be a valuable one. But victory was snatched away in the dying moments of the match. Martin Smith, the scorer of Darlington's equaliser, much to the relief of the home fans.
Injuries and suspensions had Darlington down to the bare bones defensively, so Gaetano Gialanza's opener was a huge boost. Their keeper Sam Russell was the star of the show until finally the in-form Michael Symes caught him out. Darlington, though, struck back immediately, helped by an almighty deflection. Neil Wainwright delighted to claim the credit. The Shrews facing an undeserved defeat, but 5 minutes from the end, David Rowson hacked down the lively Ben Davis, who thumped in the equaliser himself.
Darlington fans are wondering what's going on at the TFM Arena. David Hodgson was suspended on Saturday, and it looks like the Quakers manager has taken charge for the last time.
David Hodgson's given 11 years of his life to Darlington in 3 separate spells as manager, but a final bitter parting of the ways now seems inevitable. He's been suspended while the club conduct an internal inquiry. They've been quite vague, but allegations that Hodgson's being considered for the vacant manager's job at Bournemouth are definitely part of the problem. He'd already fallen out with the chief executive this season, and although the players are still said to be 100% behind him, this looks like the end of the road. Neil Maddison is in charge for now, but Hodgson was still at the helm on Friday night when Martin Smith's double had them 2-0 up against Grimsby. A Mariners fight back meant another disappointing draw for the Quakers, though. Hartlepool have now...
And staying with Sunderland, the man who ended last season in charge at the Stadium of Light is being tipped to be the new boss of Darlington.
Stretch my high horse, Jeff. Kevin Ball, you're talking about, is the favourite to be installed as the Darlington manager. David Hodgson unlikely to return. There's an inquiry underway about his link with another club. That club is Bournemouth. Now, I understand that David Hodgson was given permission to talk with Bournemouth last week, and then it was rescinded. They squandered a 2-goal lead, didn't they, against Grimsby on Friday night. There's been a pretty fractious relationship between Hodgson and his chief executive over the last couple of weeks. Jeff, it would be shabby beyond all belief if he went for a reason like this. It needs sorting out quickly. He deserves better. He's carried Darlington for so long, hasn't he?
And I hear there's a bit of a vacancy at Darlington.
Yes, there is indeed, and it seems that being a football manager in the North East is indeed a risky business. Darlington sacked David Hodgson last night, meaning all 5 of our professional clubs have now changed their manager over the past 12 months. But we may not have heard the last of Hodgie. He plans to appeal against his dismissal.
It was of little surprise when David Hodgson was sacked last night after days of speculation. Today the chairman explained why.
Last Tuesday I got a call from the chairman of Bournemouth. It was the guy rang me and said he had what I reckon an agent on his behalf of David rang him, and it was okay to have an interview. And I said, yes, I can't stop David having an interview whatsoever. I was obviously disturbed, but it was definitely that David or someone had approached Bournemouth, because otherwise how would they get my telephone number?
Hodgson was suspended after the 2-2 draw against Grimsby on Friday night, and today denied the claims he's spoken to Bournemouth. The Quakers sit just 2 points outside the playoff places, but performances were another reason behind his sacking.
We've had poor results. I haven't been very happy about it, mind you, but I've let David, I've given David chances.
Fans on the streets of Darlington are divided over the decision.
I think he shouldn't have gone myself, but he's done well for us, hasn't he?
Oh, yeah, I think he should have gone, yeah. Give him a new chance, new start.
Yeah, he shouldn't have gone. New guys come in, doesn't know the history of the club.
No, I don't think he should have been sacked.
There are still a number of other matters which Darlington wouldn't talk about. They say they've passed them on to the Football Association, but say they've nothing to do with the investigation into transfer bungs. And after 3 years, so ends David Hodgson's 3rd spell as manager of Darlington Football Club. Neil Maddison will continue to take charge for tomorrow night's home game against Rochdale. And who knows, come a fortnight's time for their next home game, there could be a new face in the hot seat. David Warrener, ITV Time.
Well, Darlington fans might be consoling themselves with the thought that this week can't possibly be as bad as last week. It was 7 days from hell for the Quakers as they lost their manager in mysterious circumstances, then lost a match in humiliating circumstances. It's tough to lose your first game in charge. It's even worse to lose it in front of your own fans. But to lose 5-0 at home to Rochdale must have been the stuff of nightmares for caretaker duo Martin Gray and Neil Maddison. From the moment Mariko Sacco fired home, it was clear that the Quakers' dreadful week was not going to have a happy ending. A dreadful tackle from Craig James was a key factor. His early red card left the Quakers wide open, and Rochdale took full advantage. By half-time, they were 4 goals up.
I thought, there's times when you can come out and defend players, and there's times where you've got to come out and be honest. And I thought our defensively, as a back four, some of the individual errors that were made tonight cannot be defended.
The ghost of managers past loomed over the game. Some Quakers fans chanted David Hodgson's name, while Chairman George Horton and in particular Chief Executive John Sotnick got an awful reception from the fans after a week when the club aired their dirty washing in public. On the pitch, Rochdale scored a 5th and it was misery all round. So did the players have their minds on the job after a difficult few days?
There's no room for excuses. We have had a fantastic week on the training ground. I feel that me and Neil Maddison's prepared this team as good as we could prepare them. And I think if you ask the players the question, they went in this game tonight full of confidence. What I do think is that this football club's had a dreadful week, off the pitch, and I think that just topped the week off.
The club said today they want to appoint a director of football and a manager. Former Darlington boss Brian Little is the bookies' favourite to replace David Hodgson, and he'd be welcomed by the fans, who could do with a bit of cheering up.
Managerless Darlington look to be putting their recent troubles behind them at Hereford. Homekeeper Wayne Brown did so well to deny Brian Close, but former Middlesbrough striker Alan Armstrong cashed in. It took the captain to rescue Hereford, Tamika Mukandawira, with his first goal since the opening day. 6 games without a win now for the Quakers.
Darlington's joint caretaker manager Martin Gray wants the job for real. Trezor Kando, a former Darlow player himself, came close to harming his chances. But ultimately this did look good on the CV. Simon Johnson put the Quakers on the way to their first win for almost 6 weeks. No sooner had the fuss died down than Barnet finished themselves off. Neil Wainwright's centre was crashed past his own keeper by Joe Devereux, stretching Barnet's winless run to 8 matches.
Now, for some fans, the big North East derby is this weekend, not last. Hartlepool against Darlington rides again on Saturday. Relegated Pools against managerless Darlow. We needed a form guide, so we turned to a couple of men who squared up in some mighty local battles.
Joe Allen, Kevin Smith, prolific striker, inspired skipper, Hartlepool favourite, Darlington great, promoted 91, champions 91, neutral territory yesterday.
We were friends anyway, and we like to play against each other, just for the crack afterwards, so to speak. Joe would have been making some funny quip and have me giggling, trying to break my concentration, which wasn't hard in them days.
It's funny, this is the closest he's ever getting to it, is.
You're just hoping to get the result because form usually goes out the window, and at the end of the day you just want to win regardless of how well you played.
It's quite easy for people in the North East to get carried away and support Newcastle, Sunderland, Middlesbrough. They're the big 3. But I'll tell you what, they've got their own identities, Hartlepool and Darlington, and they've got their own set of people. It'd be quite easy for them any time to go and watch the big boys, but now they stick with their teams. And they're special people, both sets of supporters.
Hartlepool fans haven't seen a league win this month, but their luck looked to have changed at Chester on Friday when Joel Porter's early rebound put them ahead. But the tide turned immediately against them when John Daly was sent off for an elbow that never was. These pictures have seen that red card rescinded. September had been a great month with 5 wins out of 7, but when Ashley Westwood equalised in first half stoppage time, a 6th league defeat was on the cards. Jonathan Walters broke the 10-man resistance again, but Danny Wilson has made progress.
I've watched Hartlepool steadily progress over the last few weeks, and they're playing some really good football without getting the rewards that they really should.
They aren't a bad side, Hartlepool. I've watched them a couple of times, and there's just little things missing which can come right on the day.
And something went right for the Quakers against Barnet. A first win in 8 started by Simon Johnson's goal. A boost for coach Martin Gray, shortlisted for the permanent job. An own goal provided another talking point from the sacking of David Hodgson.
To be fair, he's done well for the club. He's got it stabilised. It's been through some stormy seas. and you know, he's rode there high above everything and kept it all going.
I think it's important when Darlington make their managerial appointment that the people in charge of the football clubs realise what it is to the supporters in the town.
Chris Turn, obviously, he's got the experience, and as he said, he's got an affinity with the club. He's been there, and he's had some success with the club. And I think it's important whoever, you know, our directors and chairman appoint has that sort of affinity. If the chairman, as he's already said publicly, that he wants what's best for the fans and for the club, then his problem's solved if he appoints Brian Little.
Don't sit on the fence, Kevin. Unfortunately, Brian Little is not on the chairman's official shortlist. Is that a mistake with an experienced figure like that, Colin? You know Brian?
Well, I do. Brian, I mean, first of all, terrific man, terrific coach, and you know, when he was at Millers with us when we were young, and he had the reserves and he had the opportunity to go to Darlington and took them out of the conference. You know, so what Kevin's saying, yeah, he's definitely got the affinity with the fans, but I think Darlington have got two ways to go. They either go for experience, and that probably is Brian Little, or they go with giving two young lads who really want to succeed at Darlington in Martin Gray and Neil Madison. So I think they've got the